child being in foster care is far from an ideal scenario. It's very, very sad. A child going to two gay parents, I think, is worse.
We're going to talk about Matt Walsh, the conservative influencer and Daily Wire host, because he just went on Tucker Carlson and frankly made some extremely inflammatory and controversial remarks about gay people and gay parents that I just have to respond to. Because this clip here from Matt Walsh, this is toxic. Take a listen.
A child being in foster care is far from an ideal scenario. It's very, very sad. A child going to two gay parents, I think, is worse. I think it's easily worse, actually.
Why?
It's just more disordered. It's more confusing for the child. Again, neither scenario is good. We don't like either thing, but I don't see going to gay parents as an improvement over the what they had before. So,
do we know that it screws kids up, or we just sort of intuitively know it?
I think we intuitively know, but also there's been plenty of studies done about the mental health effects of kids that grow up in these, same-sex parent homes. There's been a lot of studies done about it, but honestly, you can look at the studies, people will fact check, and they're there. I don't need studies for this.
So my first response to this was just say you hate gay people and go. Like, it is so obvious to me that he's just motivated by disgust for gay people, because I think, look, listen, there's people who might disagree with me on some of these issues related to this who are coming from a good place, just have a different view. But when you're actually saying with a straight face that it is better for kids to remain in foster care than it is to go to two loving, dedicated parents of the same sex, you've lost the plot. Foster care, I know a lot of people that work in it I'm sure are well-intentioned and do their best, but it is an incredibly dysfunctional system with very high rates of abuse of kids. And even when they're not abused, the kids are just moved from home to home many, many times over the course of their childhood. It is incredibly disruptive. The outcomes are very, very poor. And the idea that you would just be so motivated by your disgust for gay people or gay families that you would want to legally deprive people, and that is very clear that is his position from the full interview, of having a family just because it doesn't look the way you think it should or doesn't match your expectations of what you believe in, is sick. It's honestly really messed up to want to deny kids a loving home and leave them stuck in foster care where there are kids just waiting and waiting to be adopted who never will. To be clear, for healthy newborn babies, there is way more people that want to adopt them than there are babies available for adoption. And we could have a conversation about maybe you believe that in those cases, a mother and father family should be prioritized over a same-sex couple. I would disagree with that, but we could have a conversation there. And I don't think that makes you inherently a hateful person or anything like that. But if you would literally rather subject kids to foster care, to languishing in the foster care system, than allow them to be adopted by a same-sex couple, you don't care about the kids. You just hate gay people and are allowing that to consume your entire worldview at that point. And I'm not afraid to say it. I mean, he literally admits that he doesn't care about the facts or evidence. Because, to be clear, guys, gay people have been adopting and raising kids for decades and decades and decades in this country and in many other countries. And so there's ample evidence and research. We don't have to speculate. How do they come out? Are they going to be all messed up? Is it going to cause problems in their lives? No, we've done this. We've seen the experiment. I personally know people who were raised by two same-sex parents who came out wonderfully. But obviously that's just anecdotal. That's not super relevant. The studies on this are unambiguous and extremely overwhelming in their consensus. Kids who are raised by same-sex couples, adopted by same-sex couples, not only in some studies do they actually perform better than heterosexual couples, which is the finding of some of these studies, though, to be clear, that is because nobody becomes a gay parent by accident. It's a subset of gay people who choose to become parents, and they tend to be very wealthy and very dedicated to raising a child, whereas heterosexual people sometimes have kids by accident they're not prepared for and aren't able to take care of. So it's not like no one is saying that, same-sex parents are superior, but the reason some of those outcomes might be better is because they're more affluent, they're more likely to be people who are dedicated to being good parents, because because it's never going to happen by accident for us, right? So that would explain that finding. But most of the studies simply find no meaningful statistical difference. And this, again, not speculation. Cornell University compiled a review of the literature, and here's what they found. We identified 79 scholarly studies that met our criteria for adding to knowledge about the well-being of children with gay or lesbian parents. Of those studies, 75 concluded that children of gay or lesbian parents are no worse than other children. Only 4 studies concluded otherwise, found some evidence of negative outcomes, but importantly, those studies included children from broken homes where they were raised by a gay parent because, for example, there was a divorce between the parents, a man and a woman, and then one of the parents became out as gay, and then they were living with a same-sex partner, so then they're observed as raised by a same-sex couple, but the root of the negative outcome there is probably the underlying divorce or family dissolution. So if you want to compare apples to apples, you'd have to look at stable same-sex households versus heterosexual households. Obviously, a broken family is going to cause problems no matter what, but regardless, you got 75 studies to 4. So the evidence on this is very clear. But Matt Walsh literally says, I don't care about the evidence. I don't care about the studies. My feelings are what matter. Just my vibes are that it's icky and I don't like it. So let them kids languish in foster care, I guess. And I have to say, I would really never normally comment on someone's personal life or personal behavior, but it's kind of galling to me that you have someone like Matt Walsh, and so I will make an exception, who is a multi-millionaire, I'm sure, makes a lot of money at the Daily Wire doing his content, and I don't begrudge him that, but he's a Christian man, and I know many Christians of, especially out here in West Michigan, of middle class or modest means who have several biological children, but then adopt kids from foster care or just from a regular adoption. And that's a very common thing in the Christian community. It is quite notable to me that Matt Walsh, with his ample resources, I'm sure he could afford to hire full-time nannies if he was so inclined, as far as I could tell, and I will absolutely correct myself if I'm somehow proven wrong, but from what I could find on the internet, has adopted 0 children in addition to his children that he's had biologically. And so for you, as an extremely wealthy Christian man, to have never taken the time to rescue or adopt a single kid from foster care, to then say with your whole chest that it should be illegal for other people to do so is astounding in its audacity and its ignorance. And honestly, I didn't watch the whole 2-hour interview, but I watched the whole segment about this topic that Matt did with Tucker Carlson, and he just didn't really bring any meaningful arguments. The other point that he made was this. Take a listen.
We should we should look at the way that human society was structured for thousands of years, and we should probably consider that they were right about a lot of that stuff. If human beings did something a certain way for literally millennia in every civilization that we know of, it's probably right. I mean, there's probably a lot to be said for it. Again, not in every case, but in most cases. So
it's worth pondering anyway. It tells you something if every civilization, none of which that we know of had contact with each other, came to the same conclusions.
Exactly. So it's something like the gay adoption. That, and this isn't the only argument against it, but I think it is a worthwhile argument that there's never been a society anywhere on earth, anywhere period, where they have had 2 men in a romantic relationship starting a family. That's never existed. It's always been a man and a woman start a family, or in certain ancient civilizations and even some primitive ones today, you might have a man and several women. You might have polygamy.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty common feature, I would say.
Common, certainly common. But you never had, and why do you have polygamy? I don't support polygamy. But
So this clip stood out to me for a couple of reasons. But one is that within 60 seconds, he kind of contradicts and debunks himself. His argument is not a very strong one. That, something's been done this way for a very long time. So not always, but that means it's probably good. Slavery, mass rape, all sorts of horrible things have been done for millennia throughout human history. Doesn't mean they were ever right or moral or good. Some traditions are good. Some should change with time. It doesn't tell you anything, this argument. The question is whether same-sex parenting is one of the things that should change or shouldn't. And just the fact that they didn't do things like that for a very long time, Matt even admits, doesn't mean that they were always right. and in fact goes on to contradict himself, because polygamy, one man having multiple wives, was a practice for a very long time in a lot of civilizations. He says, of course, I don't support that. So it's just a complete non-argument. It's a non sequitur. And really, he didn't have much to offer here. He dismissed facts and evidence, exclusively argued from his own feelings that he wants to legislate, and then rambled on for minutes with nothing burger points like this one that don't actually say anything. I thought it was a really remarkable clip that shows, I think, the shortcomings in the seriousness and intellectual depth a lot of these right-wing culture warriors. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And that'll be it for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do consider subscribing and sticking around if you haven't yet, and do consider hitting that like button.